Hey, it's Lucy. Oxford has been my home for 4 years now during my time as a PhD student, or DPhil student as they call us here. And you know what? I love this place. I'm packing up and leaving for good in a week, and I am aching at the thought of leaving all this behind. Because for the most part, I've actually been really happy here, and the city itself has played no small part in that. If you're headed this way, I envy you, and I hope you love it as much as I do. And this is a quick few minutes rundown of what life has been like here as a postgraduate for all the people about to start their own story here. First thing to say that's great about Oxford are the green spaces. Oxford is really just a town with enough beauty to fill a whole capital city. Yes, there are main roads and sprawling suburbs, but you never really get the claustrophobic city vibe that you get from tall buildings or a lot of tarmac. There are marshes out here, quiet woodland paths, plus 2 rivers and a canal to give enough waterside paths that I'm still finding new ones. And I think everyone has their own favourite bit of green space. Depending on which part of town you live in, that could be Port Meadow, Headington Park, Christchurch Meadow, but for me, that's the university parks. Here there are the most enormous trees. There's a pair of swans who nest most years, and at every time of year there's some new colour to look at. Cherry blossom in the spring, or red aces in the autumn, or the oranges of late sunrises in winter. This place has been my commute, my running route, my just out for an amble to clear my head route, and I think it's really important to have a quiet place that means something to you and that you almost form a relationship with. I see much less of the city centre than you'd expect, given most of my life is going from the flat to the department across this greenery, and that's a very pleasant bubble to occupy. The city is beautiful, and that beauty definitely has its own value in being a kind of background enrichment even when you're not actively paying attention. It doesn't really get old seeing buildings more than half a millennium old, and getting to study in them like this library, or live in them, eat in them as part of the college system, that's something special. I never tire of this view as you enter my college, St Edmund Hall, which is a collection of 11th century halls that house scholars before the university even technically existed. The college system is an added dimension to postgraduate life in being a kind of extended common room that most universities don't offer. There's a sense of community in that there's a smaller pool of people than a whole university for you to see regularly and get to know outside of your department. We have our own library in a converted medieval church, and a common room just for postgraduates where I sometimes hang out and where social events are hosted, which can be a nice way to meet people. College as a postgraduate means I can get dinner here, I can stay in college-owned accommodation, I have access to certain grants and bursaries, and I can teach undergraduates on my course here in small classes called tutorials. But the beauty of Oxford is a double-edged sword in that, understandably, at least pre-COVID, it attracted an awful lot of tourists in the city centre, and this combined with it being in the south, as well as the million students, means it's an excruciatingly expensive place to live. This is very upsetting given I am too old and cynical to put up with the Russian roulette of risking housemates, but also, want to be able to feed myself. Living in Oxford for your postgraduate will, I think, suit most people. If you're used to the bustle of a big city, then there's restaurants, bars, concert halls, and London is only an hour away by train. And conversely, if, like me, you came from somewhere intimate, like where my undergraduate was in Durham, you can spend your free time following muddy riverside paths with your neck craned back looking at trees. Train connections are quite decent. You can get a 2-hour train to Birmingham, and you can get to most places in the north reasonably quickly. Connections for airports are good. I've used a bus to Gatwick and Heathrow on a number of occasions. I think for me the best thing about life in Oxford is again just going back to the beauty. I don't tire of it. I'm going to miss the dozen different bells from a dozen different churches and colleges that go off every hour. I'm going to miss looking around a college's grounds and being like, oh, okay, they have a giant meadow in here. They have a deer park. I'm going to miss being in the company of greatness, great scholars, great architects, a landscape that encourages you to do better in yourself just by being something more than you would usually see. Oxford's a great city to grow yourself in, and you won't be the same person when you come out. You'll be a better person, and I hope that one day when you're finishing your time here, you'll think of this place how I do, which is like a stern but well-meaning mentor urging me onwards. If you have any specific questions about life in Oxford or life as a postgraduate, or both, please ask me in the comments or get in touch on Twitter because I'm all too happy to help. Thanks for watching, take care.